Hey, hey, Prakar here for the first time in what seems like, honestly, it feels like forever, but it's only been, like a month? I think the last episode I did was January 3rd or something like that. It feels like it happened at the end of last year, but it actually happened in the beginning of this year. So I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned I wanted to do one of these at least once a month, and turns out I'm actually on track for that. Granted, I don't know how I'm going to like space them out or like what I'm going to talk about, because I do want to do them more than once a month, but once a month is like my bare minimum. So January 3rd, I think, is when I have the last one, and then February 1st is when I'm recording this one. Now, okay, I actually recorded this episode last night, which was January 31st, but it was an absolute rambling mess. Like, I'm talking, it took me, I want to say, about 50 minutes. Like, the episode was about 50 minutes long, and it was just 50 minutes of me like scrambling through my script and rambling about things. And it was clearly like, you could tell that I hadn't done this in a bit. It was for sure I had not done this in a bit. But yeah, I'm back today to hopefully make this a more constructive recording, because like I said last time was really rambling, and I feel like I lost a lot of the process in all of the rambling. So I'm hoping today that I can like go in and actually give you a clearer outline of what I had done. And I guess I might as well just go ahead and get into it, really. First thing to start is that just taking inventory of like where I was last time. So it's really hard to believe, honestly, that last episode was just about me making the actual worksheets, because it feels like after doing this whole like first sprint, it feels like I've had these forever. It's wild to think that like only a month ago I was struggling to put them together. Not really struggling, but I was trying to put them together, and because this is my first time doing something like this. I think I mentioned at one point that I don't really do big like character or world building worksheets normally, because they kind of overwhelm me. So I tend to just leave those to the side elsewhere for like other people to do their own stuff. But for this, I felt like, okay, maybe I could do like a halfway point between making doing those character and world building worksheets, but then also leaving a lot of like wiggle room, so it's not like me specifying specific things like how a character wants their coffee, you know what I mean? I can leave that for my spontaneous side. So it's my first time doing or my first time trying to figure out really how I could do this without like making it super tedious, or how I can do this without making myself hate the process and making my anxiety around like writing the whole story a lot worse. So I think that's where I left off last time, as far as like last episode, and just me talking about, I remember actually, okay, I remember mentioning that last episode felt like I had a lot of action potential or something like that, I think I said, where it felt like I was like getting into position to start a race, and that 100% is what it has continued to feel like, because I feel like I'm off now. Like I'm the race has begun, and I am going, you know what I mean? So I've officially started the race. I've officially started acting on the action potential from last time, or whatever I mentioned. Something is probably not the right term, but yeah. So that's basically how I was, how it started, how it's going, however. Okay, so first section that I wanted to do, because I want to do, if you remember the pyramid that I had, the hierarchy, the leftovers hierarchy of needs, I think it's called, but the pyramid started with like the government and general world building section, which includes like the government, parties and groups with vested interests, I think towns, cities, other territories, political departments or governmental departments, stuff like that. Like in hindsight, I probably could have put the towns and cities and other territories and stuff in the next section, which is like human culture and world building, because I have Pokemon territories in that section with Pokemon, so probably could have put the towns elsewhere, but Not gonna lie, I had a lot of fun getting them. I don't want to say getting them out of the way because it wasn't something where I was like, oh yeah, I just need to, finish these real quick so I can move on to better stuff. But I had fun doing them as part of this because I do feel like the government and the I feel like I'm gonna say government a lot in this episode. I'm so sorry, but I do feel like the government and just like a lot of the things that I had written down for specific departments and stuff do depend on or do correlate with different cities and how their cultures are and everything. And it was also kind of fun to just think about, like, as I'm talking about these departments as a whole, think about like what type of cities the culture matches up to, or where the offices might be located at, or like what government official came from what city. Like, it was just a lot of fun to kind of draw these comparisons, or not comparisons, but to correlations, I think is the correct word for it. It was a lot of fun to just like draw these correlations, because I don't know if I mentioned this before, when it comes to like just the government and general world building stuff in general, but when it comes to all of that, for me it was very much like I had a very, very vague idea of like, oh, this is what type of government hoenn has, or oh, these are the cities that I have to that I need to know about within the next within season 1 or within the next couple chapters. So I would have those, I'd start fleshing those out, but then everything beyond that was very much a mystery. And that was part of the whole pantsing thing, where it's like, oh yeah, I get to have fun and figure that out later on. But it was also making me not want to write, because it was so much work I had to do before I even got to that process. So like, if I wanted to do a chapter in Mauville, I had to figure out what Mauville has going on as far as like its relation to the government, its relation to just like the culture of the city and everything. And because I'm saying government so much, let me just go ahead and explain why I have so much focus, because I'm going to be getting into a lot of like terms and the research and stuff that I did later on in this episode. But I just wanted to like put it out there why I'm going so deep into the government, because you might be thinking like, why are we looking at departments, and why are we looking at like, this is not a political thriller, like what's going on, what is really going on with Leftovers. But so my main thing is, well, I guess a disclaimer first is that I personally am not a very political person. I've never been a political person. I didn't even, when it was time to get my voter card, I didn't even want to pick a party. Like, I like to try to see all sides, and we, especially nowadays, and especially when Leftovers started, because Leftovers started in like 2015, we're very much in a situation where you are not allowed to be a fence sitter. Not fence sitter so much, but to look at both sides. It's very bipartisan, and it's very divided in our political environment at the moment. So I just have never liked participating in it at all, really. You take that as you will, but I somehow, well, not somehow, it just happens when you're writing a story. It seeps its way, whatever you have going on in the outside world, whether you know the influence is going to happen or not, it seeps its way into what you're working on. And I think it happened around chapter, or was it 12.5, I think? It was the Stephen. For those of you guys who have read Leftovers, you know what this extra is, but it was the Stephen extra. I think it was called Into the Night, where he like found Hazen, and we don't know who Hazen is because I haven't introduced him by name yet, but the blue-haired boy, the ghost boy, he found him, and they had this whole thing going on where they were talking about aberrants, and it was some people, or some security guards, who were like, oh my god, like, you're a trainer? Like, I wasn't allowed to be a trainer, da, da, da. And that was the first time I really stepped into my, like, what's going on in the political background of Leftovers bag. And then the second time where I kind of like retroactively did that was when I did my director's cuts for chapter 1. All the chapters, but like specifically for chapter 1, there is, and maybe, I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, and you might already know this, but there's a couple pages in chapter 1 in the beginning. The first 2 pages, I believe, or 1.5 pages, that are new, that weren't there when the comic first started, but I tried to be a sneaky sneak, and I drew them in the old comic style, so unless you have like a really keen eye or you were there in the beginning, you won't be able to tell that those pages were not automatically, or those pages were not originally included. But there's like 4 years between the actual beginning of chapter 1 and the new beginning of chapter 1, which I did in 2019, I believe, for the director's cuts. But there's a part in there where Asadi, and this is all me years later realizing how big of a part politics and stuff would play in Leftovers. So I'll talk about that specifically in a second, but like there's a part where Asadi's laying on the couch and she's looking at the TV, and it's like what did it say? I think Pokemon training is an institutionalized version of crime or something like that, or it's man, I can't remember exactly what it was, and I'm sad because I didn't like bring it up. Maybe I can like find it real quick. But that was a version of me kind of reaching into like, okay, I think I want to pursue, or like dipping my toe in to, I think I want to pursue more political aspects with Leftovers. Not like a whole lot. Like, this is not going to become 100% a political thriller. Don't worry, or I don't know, don't worry, maybe you guys would like that, I don't know, but I personally, I'm not a super, political person, so I am not going too deep. I'm only using the world building. If you hear me clicking, it's because I'm trying to find this page. I'm trying to find the page because it was like a banger of a line. Hold on. No, I can't find it. Oh, I think it was on the last. Oh, that means I have to put this up in the video too, because, man, no, I couldn't find it. What? Oh, you know what? I think the page numbers are off. Like, I think it skips a page in my like next section. You know how on DeviantArt you can put in like next for the next page. I think it skips from 2 to 3. But anyway, yeah. So with Leftovers, my main goal is to have Asadi, just to see Asadi grow throughout the story. And so I like the idea of having, the political background of Hoenn kind of fleshed out, because just like in the real world, all the stuff that's going on in the background trickles down and affects us. So I like having that fleshed out more than just like, oh, this is the type of government that Hoenn has, or this is, who's in charge right now. I like having that stuff fleshed out more, because I do like the idea of like Sonder and everybody having their own story, or being like the protagonist of their own story. And I feel like I could get some really cool stuff in there with like different political leaders and different situations, towns, like even in the Into the Night extra, I was going more into Steven and how he feels about his position. I want to go more into that too, but because the league, they're kind of like political. They're not just the Pokemon League. I don't know about you guys, but I just really think all of that, specifically in regards to different worlds, like fantasy worlds. Like, for instance, Arcane. When I was watching Arcane, I really liked the political aspect of that, because it just seems like and a lot of people have problem with metaphors and stuff like that, and I understand that, because like, if we're going to talk about the problems, let's talk about the problems, like, let's be about it, you know what I mean? But a lot of the appeal, I think, of talking about politics and government and stuff within like a fantasy context is the fact that it is a fantasy context, and you can mess around with a bunch of like different dynamics. Like for me personally, I've had to pull myself away. I'm not going into a whole rant about this, and I did not expect it, but I've had to, I'm mostly stalling because I can't find this page for the life of me. I can't. And I'm trying so hard, but I'm trying to pull myself away. I'm really trying to pull myself away from the idea of taking exactly what is going on in the real world and putting it in leftovers, and just using different kinds of like swapping in different kinds of creatures for, you know, whatever. Because I think that I think you can do a lot more creatively with not necessarily transferring, like, for instance, in leftovers, like, let's say, you know, you got like the different kinds of religions, like Groudonians and then Kyogites, the ones who follow Groudon and ones who follow Kyogre. It's a little bit of a spoiler, but whatever. I can't remember if I mentioned them or not anyway, but you have them, and they're not going to be directly correlating to any real world religion, because, like, why would they, right? It's Pokemon. It's very similar to my policy. God, I'm really talking like this is real politics. It's really similar to my policy on my character designs and character creation. Like, I can't remember if I mentioned this, but I don't like to think of my characters as different races. So, like, Asadi is not black or African American, or, you know, the only characters, I only have 2 characters where I thought of them as, like, mixed with Caucasian and Asian, but outside of that, everybody else is shades of colors. And the reason why is because, like, why would I take race and put it into the Pokemon world? It doesn't make any sense. With just the way the world came up, you know what I mean? With the way the world formed, it's not like our world. So there's so many more creative things that can be done to create division. You know, division between Pokemon and humans, division between different factions of humans, between, I don't know, different types of Pokemon trainers, like, you know, the bug catchers versus the delinquents. Like, I don't know. There's so many more different things that can be done creatively, and I like when fantasy politics deal more with that than with translating directly what we have in the real world into their thing. Like, I'm trying to think of the name of this, but it's the one with Will Smith, and he's got the orc as a partner or whatever. But I feel like that's not bad, but I feel like that's less appealing to me as a form of translating politics into a fantasy world. But then you have Arcane, where it's like, okay, we don't have magic in this world, but, like, in this world that has magic, how would you even deal with the politics of that? You know what I mean? How do you put controls on that? Obviously, there's going to be parallels, and there's going to have a lot of parallels as far as, like, you know, rich people getting what they want versus, like, the poor people, class systems, whatever. But, like, magic is just something completely foreign to us in our world, and seeing how people regulate that and seeing the sorts of world building that can be done around that. And it's similar with Pokemon too, because Pokemon are like creatures that are, imagine if we just had like dogs running around here spitting fire, you know what I mean? And that's like the type of like world building, or the type of like peeling back different layers that you have to really do when you work with a fantasy world, is try to take something that's not real and give it like an ounce of realism, but without making it feel derivative, I think is the best word for that, without making it feel like too derivative. So that's, I feel like the tangent I kind of lost everything, but I did find the quote, and I might put it up on screen too, but I did find the quote from my comic Um, so, alright, Asadi, she gets home, she's, welcome Asadi, I gotta stop doing that, da-da-da. And then she's laying on the couch, and then they say, the TV's like, anyone with half a brain cell can see that training is nothing but institutionalized generational delinquency. And then she turns off the TV, and it's like, politics. But nothing else is on, at least nothing I haven't seen. So that's part of, like, my disdain for politics making its way into Asadi, which I want to show, in no such spoilery terms. I want to show her maturing along with the because sometimes it's hard to be like, okay, I think I have a handle on this, like, politics wise, but everything is changing so rapidly. There's so many different laws and stuff in place. There's so many different, like, political ideology. Ooh, that word almost kicked my ass. Wait a minute, it might did actually. Ideologies. So many different political ideologies. Jesus. That, and that happens in Leftovers too, where all the stuff is developing as Asadi is trying to just be an adult and, like, live, you know what I mean? Or growing into an adult and living. So that's why it's important for me to figure out what's going on in the background. I'm quite a bit more pleased with this recording than last night. Honestly, I feel like I've gotten some good stuff off my chest, but now I gotta, like, bullet time with the rest of this episode. So yeah, government and general world building worksheets. That was the first section that I wanted to do, and I planned to have that finished by the end of January, and I did. I finished it on the 28th, which was this past Friday. Also, I just looked over at my calendar, like I did last night, because I forgot when the 28th was, and I forgot that I wiped my calendar today, and it's empty, and I'm so sad. That was, like, my heart sank. It's a little bit of anxiety in there, but yeah, the 28th, I believe, was on Friday. So I finished it 3 days. How do I know? I finished it 3 days before my deadline was, so I'm really happy about that. The itinerary kind of for the government section was because I believe I mentioned before, I have to print out a sheet for each specific thing. So it's not like a sheet for government branches where I list, like, the executive, legislative, and judicial branch on the same one and then describe, like, what each one does on the same sheet. No, I have a different worksheet for each branch. So I think in total I had 44 worksheets, and I will, you know what, why not? I was gonna say maybe I won't read, like, some specific portions, but I'll omit some spoilery ones, like I did last night. But I had one sheet for just the government as a whole worksheet, which was the hoenn government. There's other governments, but I'm not worried about them right now. I can pants my way through those later based on what I put for hoenn, and, like, hoenn's history and all that. And then for parties and groups with vested interest, I had 4 of those. I'm not going to read all of them because they're spoilery, but I will tell you that the Pokemon League got its own worksheet, so that is a party/group with vested interest. Branches of government, I already said, I had 3 of those, executive, legislative, and judicial. And this is a part where I can tell you that I did a lot of research, probably more research into politics and, like, different governments and types of things than I've done in, like, years. And it was really fun, actually. For someone who doesn't like to deal with it, I do like the process behind all of it and how the checks and balances play out, and just, I don't know, I find it intriguing. Maybe like is a strong word, but I find it intriguing. It's just hard to get into sometimes because it's so charged, it's so emotionally charged in certain areas. But yeah, so I had the 3 branches of government. And then I had political leaders. Now, political leaders, I was going to do, I think, 15 sheets. 1 and 2 for the, like, main heads of the hoenn government. And then 3 through 15 were going to be, I was going to have a sheet for every leader of the government departments. But I decided to axe that because I don't really need to have a sheet for, like, the chairman of the Department of Royal Defense. You know what I mean? Like, I can just pants that down the line. Or if I need to, that's the thing too, these worksheets, The cool part is that if I need to add something later on, I can just print out a worksheet and just fill it out. Like it's not a super big deal. I just need to, in all of these steps coming up between this one and then like the next set with like Pokemon and humans and narrative and all, well, narrative not so much, but the first like three portions of the first two portions of the pyramid, all I need are like frameworks put in place. So I need to know just basically what the government does and then what each department does. I don't need to know specifically what the leader of each department is. I can figure that out later. Actually, I might figure it out in a pretty fun way, but I'll get to that down the line. But then the next section was government departments. So I actually did government departments before I did political leaders because I planned to know what the departments were before I figured out what the leaders were, but that's neither here nor there. Government departments, I had 16 of them, one of which I had forgotten, and I can't believe I forgot it. But okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. So before I start, I based hoenn's government off of a mixture of America and Japan specifically. So there's a lot of like picking and choosing of different elements that I thought would be kind of cool, but then also I had to figure out a way to make it not, like I was saying before, make it not super derivative to where it's like the hoenn doesn't have like a diet, you know what I mean? They have specific things, like more general terms, like the royal or departments and stuff like that, but they don't have like a diet and just anything specific to like a Congress, anything specific to these governments, hoenn doesn't have. I'd rather come up with better, like more clever words for what I need instead of like borrowing it from. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, I don't want to go on another tangent again. But yeah, so government departments, I'm going to read them down the list because I'm very happy and very excited to work with them. So 1 is the Department of World Defense. 2 is the Department of Finances, my queen. 3 is the Department of Science and Technology. 4 is the Department of Economy, Trade, and International Affairs. 5 is the Department of Justice. Oh god, that's a lot. 6, Department of Culture, Religion, and Morality. 7, Department of Health, Labor, and Welfare, not warfare. 8, Department of Internal Affairs and Communication. I can read my handwriting. 9, Department of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport. 10, Department of Environmental Affairs. 11, Department of Agriculture. 12, Department of Regional Defense. 13, Department of Commerce and Industry. There's only 14. I forgot about that. Okay. And then the 14th one is the one I forgot. Reading it off the sheet, it says, fuck, the Department of Education. I can't believe I forgot the Department of Education. This is how little I know about, like, specific aspects of government. Because I just completely blanked on the fact that, like, yeah, there needs to be a Department of Education. To, like, where else is it going to fit at? Like, what other department is education going to fit in? And believe me, I tried, so I didn't have to write as many worksheets. But at the end of the day, I was like, all right, let me just put this in its own worksheet. And then I will come back to the departments in a second. But I also had towns, cities, and other territories in this section too. And I did all of the towns. So there's 16 like towns and cities in hoenn. There's Little Root, Fall Arbor, Lava Ridge, Evergrande, and Pacific Log, and all that. Speaking of Evergrande, I got a bone to pick with Evergrande. Hold on, let me finish this real quick. So I had originally set to make 20 worksheets. 4 of those I had to cross off. One of which was Smallville as a territory because, like, I think those are so story heavy that I was at risk of getting too into detail with those. So I just X'd those off because I had limited time also. Now, back to Evergrande. Evergrande is not a city. I don't know who a game freak was looking at this and was like, ooh, Evergrande, she a city, she got houses and stuff. She does not. She has a cave, she has a tower, she has a Pokemon Center, and a waterfall, and flowers. Like, there's nothing. Listen, all I'm trying to say is I was fighting for my life trying to fill out Evergrande City's worksheet, but that is beyond the point. Anyway, last and final section of the worksheets was historical and world events. which I think that has the historical world events worksheet has one of the biggest answer fields of all of these worksheets, because there's a section that's called like occurrences, which is basically what happened during this event, and it's like no, not 10. It's like 7 or 8 lines long. It's supposed to be 5 sentences. When I was like putting in parentheses, oh, this is supposed to be a multiple choice field. Like, it was supposed to be 5 sentences, like a standard school paragraph, right? And I looked at the occurrences section, and when I started the historical and world events, I did those last. I just did those. I looked at that section and I was like, this is why these worksheets are structured the way they are, because I got instantly overwhelmed with the idea of like, oh my god, I have to write a paragraph. Like, it's one paragraph, but I got instantly overwhelmed. So I was like, this is why these worksheets are just made of short form answers, because this is like, and it kind of was like a pat on the back a little bit of, yeah, you know what you need. Me at me. But yeah, so I had those. I did all of those. And going back to the government departments real quick, the reason why I say that the Department of Finances is my queen is because I actually had this phenomenon happen where I was describing, and by the way, when I say I'm doing these worksheets and I'm describing the departments, I'm not going into like what laws they created or what, specifically who works in the department or how much money they get in per year. Like, that's stuff that I can pants down the line, and I'll have the framework of all of these departments set up, these different worksheets set up, so that way I can look at, the Department of Finances or whatever, and say, if I want to do a story beat where it's like, oh, they make, way too much money, then I can look at them and the size of them that I put on this worksheet and be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe I should, use a different department. So it's nice to have that instead of it being like, oh, well, the Department of Finances makes too much money, and then down the line wanting to make the department smaller and being like, oh shit, I can't make the department smaller because originally I said that they make too much money, and trying to figure that out. This just helps me keep inventory of everything, like the basics of each department on the worksheets do. Yeah, so the Department of Finances, I realized when I was writing the worksheet, or I was filling out the worksheet, that all of these departments, the way I'm writing them are very reminiscent of like character bios. And then I had an idea, and I don't know when I'm going to do this. Maybe it'll be another speed paint that I use for one of these episodes, but I was thinking I should take each of these government departments and like give them Gajinka forms, and then have Gajinka, for those of you who don't know, is like make it humanize, or make it a human form of the thing. Like, you can have a Gajinka of a Pokemon, or a Gajinka of like a Cars OC. A Pixar Cars OC. I don't know, it was so funny. It was just random. Why Cars? Anyway, but yeah, I wanted to make like a human version of each of these departments based on the way that I described them. Like, for instance, the financial department is described as being, I wonder if I can actually find the sheet now that I'm thinking about it. Oh god, another goose chase. Here we go. Here we go. Alright. So, because members of this department see what the region's money is spent on, it can be very catty and gossipy and opinionated environment. However, there's a smooth patch of people who just want to do their jobs. So, basically, the Department of Finances, in my mind, is a Karen. Because she's always out here, like, in other people's business and trying to figure out, like, what are you spending money on? Ooh, hoenn is spending a lot of money on building gyms, stuff like that. So, in my mind, the Department of Finances is a Karen. And then I have, like, the Department of Agriculture or something, too, where I, thought about him and, like, what if he was, not, like, the stereotype of an agricultural person? Like, what if he was a dude in a suit, and stuff like that. So I was thinking about as a project going through and doing a Gajinka for each department, and then and this is where I circle back around to the department leads. Those Gajinkas will be the leaders for each department in the story. and I can give them character sheets and stuff like that or whatever later on, or at least like if we see them, because even as I'm developing this stuff, I still don't know how much of the politics and the behind the scenes stuff we're gonna see in Leftovers, because at the moment we have the Elite Four, and of the Elite Four we only have like two members and then Steven. So we have them, and we have the gym leaders. There was a town meeting or town hall meeting in chapter 11, I think it was. And then we have like Galileo, Galileo showed up, the guy on the TV in the hair salon in chapter 11. Chapter 11 was just a really political chapter, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, man, because it followed the adults, so it makes sense. But yeah, so I don't know how much of politics and stuff are going to show up in Leftovers, really, but I want to be prepared, because a lot of the issues that Asadi has to deal with, like for instance her trainer card, or not being able to, spoilers if you haven't read Leftovers already, but not being able to be a trainer because she's too old, or her license being expired, stuff like that. All of that trickles down from whatever the fuck the government is doing right now, which I won't get into my opinions on that. And I'm talking about hoenn's government. I'm talking about Leftovers, not our government, whatever the fuck our government is doing right now. But yeah, it all trickles down from that. So I'd like to know what's going on in the background, even if I don't use it all. Like, it just gives nice texture. It's a similar idea to what I do with my background characters, where I make each background character look like, well, not just look like, I do give them individual stories, so that can inform, like, so they're not just sitting there, and it makes it more fun for me to draw them when they're not just sitting there. They're acting out their own story. Like, a famous example is the guy awakening his sexuality in the background of chapter 11. Chapter 11 is just it. Like, that's the one, I guess. But the guy who's like having his sexual awakening in the background while Lucidia and Nellie are like talking. And I like doing stuff like that. I like giving background characters their own context and their own stories and stuff, because it makes it fun for me. So having all this political stuff in the background, all of the departments, Department of Education and stuff running around with his head cut, like a chicken with his head cut off. I'm gonna get this saying, running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and in the background, and then seeing how that affects the kids. Seeing how that affects like Mikhail and Solana and all of them. And yeah, it's nice to just have it kind of as texture for the world. So that is, I don't think there's anything else I needed to mention about the sheets themselves, besides the fact that, actually no, I think that's it. I think I mentioned everything about the sheets. Where am I going next? So now that I have this part done, I am fully in motion. I am ready. I'm raring to go. And this also, me working on this, helped me kind of put together a timeline of where I want this hiatus to go. I'm only halfway through the year, mind you, with the timeline. But basically, the government section was done January. I want the next section, which is Pokemon and human culture world building. So it's like Pokemon species cards and the types. And I already actually printed off the Pokemon species card. I have 69 pages, because I'm only doing Hoenn, and each page is like an evolutionary line, unless they don't have any evolutionary partners or whatever, or they don't have any like Quessel and Minun don't evolve from one another, but they're together. Stuff like that. But I'll talk more about that in the next episode, which might be even longer, Jesus, because I'm doing two different. Actually, you know what? I might split that part up. Like, I might split up the Pokemon section from the human world building section, reflections, because my deadline for both of those is March 31st. I'm gonna give myself 2 months to do those, and then just to fill everything out, and then like I can fill in some other stuff if need be. Like for instance, I only have the Hoenn, but there's other Pokemon that appear that aren't from Hoenn that don't have a sheet yet. But if I have time before March 31st, I'll go back and put those in, like Zubat and Machoke and Magikarp, stuff like that. Specifically Magikarp because it's such a huge source of food. So I need to definitely figure out like what their culture and stuff is, and like where they reside and stuff like that, how humans feel about them, stuff like that. But yeah, I want to get those done. I want to get the Pokemon and human world and stuff done by March 31st. Then I want to take March 31st to probably, I'm thinking either June or end of July to work on actually writing the story. And that's like the biggest part, I think, of the pyramid, or like the middle part of the pyramid right before doing thumbnails and stuff, which I want to take the last 6 months of the year to actually work on a page buffer. So I'm hoping to at least have I'm hoping to at least have season 1 scripted by July this year, ultimately. That's my main goal, so that way I can start working on a page buffer for next year when I actually start posting again. And it'll also be right in time for the 100 years of 100 years 100 years oh my god, 100 days of Nuzlocke comics, the challenge where you have to like do work on your comic 30 minutes every day for 100 days. 100 years. That's sometimes how long it feels like. I've been working on leftovers, but anyway, that's beyond the point. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I also, before I go, I've given myself some milestone prizes. So for this milestone, since I finished, especially since I finished early for the government worksheets, my prize was to go ahead and start putting together the binder to keep all of these, because I want to have a series Bible by the time I'm done with all this. And the cool thing is that it'll be a series Bible, but it won't be set in stone, because I can just take out sheets and put sheets in and all that. And I want to put in my I have a PDF where I made mood boards for all of the towns and cities in Hoenn, so I want to put those in too, just to like have them collected. But yeah, I started putting together that binder. I bought myself a nice heavy duty hole punch, and I bought myself a nice heavy duty binder, and it's really cute. It's probably on screen right now. I did record video of it, so hopefully it's on screen right now. And then my next, after I finish the Pokemon and human thing, my next like prize, reward, whatever, for finishing that milestone after March 31st is to just take a week off or so to do some creature designs and like human anatomy studies, because I really love doing art studies, and I just haven't had the chance to do them in a while because I've just been really busy, whether it's like with hiatus stuff or with like work or just other things. But yeah, I want to do that because I feel like that would be kind of fun. But I think, oh lord, the babies are crying. I think that's it for this episode. It was slightly shorter. Like, we were not, super short compared to last night. And last night was like 48 minutes long, but we're slightly shorter. It was 7-ish minutes. Maybe not if I keep talking. But okay. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this episode. And as usual, I hope you enjoyed. There will be another episode up before March 31st, is what I'm trying to say, because I can't wait until that long to put another episode up. I'd be wanting to talk about this stuff way too bad for that, and I'm glad I'm finally getting a good recording of this episode now. So yeah, as usual, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace doodles. Wait, nope. Bakara, sign it out.